Welcome to the First Buck Podcast, where we feature stories about entrepreneurs and the people who support them. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, and welcome to the First Buck Podcast, brought to you by sky'sthelimit.org. We feature stories about entrepreneurs and the people who support them. Today, we're joined by Jesse Haines, the Senior Director of Growth with Google, the tech company's Economic Opportunity Initiative. Grow with Google started in 2017 to help Americans grow their skills, career, and businesses. It provides training, tools, and expertise to small business owners, veterans, and military families, job seekers and students, educators, startups, and developers. Since Grow with Google's inception, it has helped more than 10 million Americans develop new skills. Grow with Google has a network of more than 9,000 partner organizations like libraries, schools, small business development centers, chambers of commerce, and nonprofits to help them across the country. We are the very grateful recipient of a Google Ad Grant as well at sky'sthelimit.org. And I'm so excited to have Jesse here today. So Jesse, we've got a little tradition here. How did you earn your first buck?
I'd say my first buck probably came from good old-fashioned babysitting. I was known in my neighborhood as being good with kids, and so was called around my street and then eventually my neighborhood. And I think that it's my babysitting career that might have led to my eventual first job as a teacher.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love asking this question because almost everybody starts off as an entrepreneur. They use the things that they have around them, their neighborhood, their resources, friendships, and relationships to earn that first buck and kind of go down the pathway of financial independence and financial literacy. So from earning your first buck to becoming a teacher, walk us through maybe some of those steps in your early career that maybe pivotal moments or sort of led to you having more and more responsibility.
Yeah. So I went to college and graduated really wanting to change the world, typical idealistic college student. And so I went my first actual job right out of college was working for a nonprofit organization, and it was called Save the Children. I mean, doesn't get more idealistic than that. And Save the Children is a great organization. They work internationally. I was in an office and I was wearing like pantyhose every day, and I did not feel like I was saving the children. And so I pivoted into teaching. I went and I worked in a high school. I taught high school history and English. And I think a big sort of realization I had for both of those experiences was that, okay, at the nonprofit, I didn't feel like I was really like proximate. And I got into a school and I felt like I was making a difference in the lives of kids, but I wanted to do that in a bigger way. And talked to some mentors, and they said, "What about business school?" And I said, "But I'm a do-gooder. I'm a teacher, business school." And they said, "Yeah, business school." And I took their advice and I went to business school, and I was sure I'd be like the only, person who never worked at a business in business school. And I wasn't. There were lots of different kinds of folks at business school. And I did learn a lot of really practical skills that carried me through to the next sort of phases of my life and ultimately helped me get a job here at Google.
I like this story a lot. You can see a thread of service through all of it, from babysitting to the nonprofit work to being a teacher. So talk to us a little bit about your role at Google and Grow with Google specifically. We'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I've been at Google for a while and definitely have had what some people call a jungle gym career path. I have not climbed the corporate ladder. I have gone a little to the left and a little to the right and maybe taken a step back, but always pursuing interesting opportunities where I felt like I would grow, where I felt like I could work with really smart people that I could learn from. And so I worked in B2B marketing and I worked in hardware, but I've always had this passion, as you guys know now, for education, and especially kind of figuring out that intersection between education and technology, which is another area where I have a lot of passion. And about 6 years ago, I got an opportunity to work with an old boss of mine to create a program to help bring the opportunities that technology creates to everyone. And we called it Grow with Google. And as you mentioned in your introduction, this program is all about helping small businesses and job seekers learn about technology, because no matter what job you have, you need digital skills to grow your business. And when you look at job seekers today, there's digital basics, and then there's just about any job you have requires some level of digital skills. But it's hard to get those. And so we wanted to make that easier for everyone, no matter your background, your education level, where you lived. That was about 6 years ago, and we've trained 10 million Americans. And it's been an incredible opportunity and experience building Grow with Google from the ground up, with the help of so many partners, internally and externally, and to see the transformative effect it's having on the lives of so many people.
Yes, that's an incredible statistic, and the impact of 10 million people having more technological knowledge to achieve things they want to do in their careers or businesses is really quite a testament to the work you guys have done. Let's talk a little bit about that curriculum, I guess. What are the sort of most popular, most useful things to Grow with Google? What are you guys measuring that seems to be the most impactful there?
So we have a small portfolio of different types of programs, but the one that's really emerged as truly impactful, it's called Google Career Certificates. And this is a program that's available online, and it takes people from no experience to entry-level job ready in tech fields that are growing, fields that pay well, fields like user experience design, IT support, data analytics. We just launched a new Google Career Certificate in cybersecurity, which is a super hot field right now. And so, like I said, you don't have to have any experience to take one of these online courses. It doesn't mean they're easy. And they shouldn't be, because at the end, if you can complete this course and get the certificate, you really are eligible for entry-level jobs in these fast-growing fields. And we've partnered with a bunch of employers. We have a hiring consortium of over 150 big companies like Bank of America and Walmart, and of course, Google's in this group, that are ready to hire these graduates, because we think it's really important not only to help people get the skills, but also to help them really connect with jobs. And that's where the employers come in. And so Google Career Certificates is truly been transformative. We have seen people go from, working at retail into IT support jobs at Infosys. And we are really, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is transformation and great jobs that lead to great careers.
I love that. And I think what's important is that throughout your whole career, like finding new skills and sharpening your skills is useful, whether you're at the beginning of that process, in the middle of it, or at any point in your career. And also, whether you're a small company or a big one, investing in yourself and in your career is going to be super important. So check out Google Career Certificates from Google for that. So one of the things you mentioned a little bit earlier, and I wanted to ask you a bit about it, you said you had sought some advice from mentors across your career. Let's talk a little bit about that. How important has mentorship been in your career, and how has the social capital of those around you played a role in your journey?
Yeah, mentors have been super important. And I can think of one mentor in particular who was really, really important to me in my early days at Google. As I mentioned, I was a teacher, and then I went to business school. And I don't know, I guess I've always carried a little bit of that imposter syndrome with me. Even when I got the job at Google, I'm like, I don't know, maybe they made a mistake. I'm still just like a teacher, a ninth grade English teacher. What do I know? And there's a lot of conversation about kind of like mentorship and sponsorship. And this guy, Mike, was both of those for me. He not only gave me good career advice, but he also really pushed me. He pushed me into opportunities that I probably would have shied away from, challenges that I might not have taken on my own. And when I was kind of strongly encouraged into those challenges and opportunities by Mike, who really believed in me, I started to believe in myself, and I found that I could do it, and I could be successful. And sometimes you just need that nudge and that person who believes in you. And I really think that is, I think the word these days is sponsorship. And I think it's really important to find that mentor and that sponsor, that person who's going to really advocate for you. It's been a huge difference in my career.
Yeah, it's so interesting that one of the common threads through all the interviews we've done, almost everyone has at least one sort of special sponsor or mentor. And the common thread is always that they sort of made them just a little bit uncomfortable in terms of the challenging them. But also what that comes with is just sort of this, when someone believes in you, that sort of belief kind of becomes contagious. And that can sort of give you that confidence to go take those extra little steps to speak up for yourself, to advocate a little bit more for a perspective you have, or something you want to do with a task or a role or responsibility. And it's so critical to find those. So what advice would you give to a young person out there, who's sort of struggling to maybe find a mentor? What's something that they should consider? How would they go about maybe trying to find a sponsor? What advice would you give just for someone looking to actually cultivate a relationship like that?
I think that part of forging a mentee relationship is finding, common ground, and also sort of helping to let that person, whoever they are, get to know you. So, it's hard to just walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, will you be my sponsor, or will you be my mentor?" I think a good way to first do that is to say, "Hey, I'm working on X, Y, and Z, and I'm stuck here. What would you do?" And then really start to sort of develop a true, authentic relationship that mentorship relationship can emerge from.
That's great advice. Cool. So I imagine in your career, you've probably had to hire a decent number of people. So what is sort of your maybe favorite interview question, or talk to us a little bit about, how you go about building a team.
Hiring is so important. I have interviewed quite a few people over the years. And one of my go-to questions is at the end of the interview, I always ask, what's the one question that I forgot to ask you?
Nice. Jiu-jitsu.
You can learn a lot from this question. Sometimes someone will say, "Nope, I think you've covered everything." And that's generally not the best way to answer that question.
Yeah.
What I'm doing with that question is I'm opening up the door to say to this person to say, "Hey, tell me, something super interesting that just didn't come up in the interview, or pitch me on why this job is, the job of your dreams." And so it's open-ended. You can really learn a lot about the person in how they either jump into that question or not. But if anyone ever asks you that question, my advice, lead hard into it. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah. I think it's a great invitation to basically sort of reveal something to the interviewer about you that you could teach them about, something that's important to you, and it's really an invitation to shine. I think that's a great one. I may have to borrow that one, Jesse. It's a good suggestion.
I'm telling you, it's a winner.
So let's see. This is a busy world these days. There's a lot changing both in the tech landscape, and obviously there's a lot of concern. And you hear from the press and the media about inflation and prices that are going up and the job market. So how do you keep up with the news, and how do you also sort of stay grounded? If you maybe read a good book this year you could recommend, give us a little bit of perspective there.
Well, quick plug, there are, you can set up news alerts, in Google. So I've got a couple of those set up. So on some specific keywords, just so I don't miss anything. And then there's just a couple of newsletters that I very diligently read every morning. I listen to the daily podcast on my way home from dropping my kids off of school. So that makes me feel smarter right off the bat. There's a great newsletter from Axios that just helps me stay up to date on what's going on. The Markle Foundation puts out a really good newsletter that's about kind of like the sort of workforce development. And so those are my go-tos for sure.
Yeah, I love that. The Google News Alert's a good one. I think we'll need to build a guide and actually include that at the end of this podcast, because I use those too. And it's one of the ways you get sort of really kind of unique stories about a specific topic or a keyword. And it's like a little hack in Google that not enough people know about. So we'll definitely make sure we teach people how to use that one.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's a great little hack. So many things that you can do with Google that.
Yeah, it's super useful. Okay, so taking steps to pursue entrepreneurship or beginning a career can always be a bit scary. But maybe what tips would you give our listeners to sort of help them as they go on their entrepreneurial journey, starting their small business with ambitions to make it bigger someday? What words of advice would you have?
I would say be curious. Always be asking questions, reaching out, asking people that you admire about what they do. People really want to help entrepreneurs. You guys are people that are interesting to other people. They want to hear about you and what you're struggling with and, your successes. So tell your story, ask questions, take smart risks. I talked about my jungle gym career path. Sometimes, doing the unexpected is leads to a more interesting and more productive for you path. So don't be afraid to take smart risks. And then, this is so cliche, but I really think it's true. You gotta trust your gut. Like, people, you're going to get lots of advice and that's great too. But at the end of the day, like, you got to make sure you're really tuning in to like you, and then trusting yourself.
Yeah. I think entrepreneurs, that idea of like listening to the instinct and the little voice in their head. I hear that from so many. They're like, I'm passionate about this thing. I don't know if anyone else is going to care. And ultimately, a lot of it boils down to you do have to find something that you have some deep reservoirs of motivation to work on. But I love that perspective you were sharing about being curious and seeking feedback and telling your story, because ultimately a lot of entrepreneurship is finding your product market fit or your market and putting yourself out there and being open to criticism, addressing that criticism, improving the product or service you're developing, and continually working on that storytelling. And like you said, people are inspired by those that take these, these risks, the smart risks you talk about. And I think those are all very wise words of wisdom for our entrepreneurial community. So, Jesse, thank you so much for sharing with us everything that Grow with Google is doing, from the certificate program to all the resources that are available online. I think almost every small business owner has to have some knowledge of Google in general and the tool sets it provides, both for free and the paid ones that can help small businesses find customers, get organized, do their accounting, better communicate with their customers, and keep track of what's happening in their market, and have a little bit of insight into how the world around them is changing. So thank you for everything Google does. At skyslimit.org, we connect underrepresented entrepreneurs with volunteer business professionals for free one-on-one mentoring. We also provide business guides to all of our mentors and further funding opportunities. So you can sign up for free today. And if you like what you heard, please subscribe and share. Thank you so much, Jesse. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Love what you guys are doing. Really enjoyed our conversations.
Great. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the First Buck Podcast. Don't forget to join the community of underrepresented entrepreneurs and their supporters by signing up at skysthelimit.org. Click subscribe, and we'll see you next time.